friends, welcome back to my channel, Emily A to Z, and this is my February wrap-up. I read a total of 15 books in the month of February, including one DNF. So I'm gonna go through all 15 books that I read in sets of 3, go over them, give you my ratings, a brief synopsis, and I have a TLDR version of every single book. So let's get started. Starting off with our first 3, The Unworthy by Agustina Basterrica, Love and Other Disasters by Anita Kelly, and Genderqueer by Maya Kobabe. The TLDR of each one of these is going to be a one-word feeling, vibe, shrug, description of each of these. Ouch. Cooking. Moving. What are these books? So, The Unworthy by Agustina Basterrica is a translated work of art, and it is this dystopian short story. It's only 175 pages, but it is set in like an undisclosed future where like climate change has happened and the earth has been destroyed and things are weird, and there is this like cult-like following of like the sisters, and they pray to this like one true God who expects them to like punish themselves on a regular basis in order to appease the powers that be to help prevent any more climate catastrophes from happening. This is told as a diary format. It is epistolary, and things go off the rails real quick. There is a lot of body horror. There is a lot of religious connotations and issues. It is rather like a fever dream kind of thing. I gave this a 3.5, and you have not seen me talk about this yet, but you will. It is going to be coming up in a video in March. Then I read Love and Other Disasters by Anita Kelly. This is the first book in her Nashville Love series. This is following 2 contestants on a cooking TV reality show, Dahlia and London. Dahlia is recently divorced and trying to find her way by joining this cooking show. London is a like audio producer person in Nashville, and they joined the cooking show like for fun kind of thing, to show off their skills. And London has very publicly come out as non-binary and is like the first contestant to do so. This is a romance. Things start heating up in the kitchen and outside of the kitchen, and they have to navigate this will they, won't they type of relationship dynamic. I did read this for my TBR-a-thon weekend. This was for my like romance challenge of like 2 people on the cover, recommended by booktubers and written by an LGBTQ plus author. The author themselves does use they them pronouns, and I gave this a 3. I enjoyed it, but found some just like kind of cliche / stereotypes that I didn't really like. Then I read Genderqueer, also for TBR-a-thon. This was for my graphic novel or manga prompt for the TBR Explorer. I landed in that room, and so I chose to read this. This is a graphic novel memoir written by Maya Kobabe. I messed this up in my video, and I want to be correct. Er are the pronouns M uses. I am still a little confused, and I am trying to educate myself. I am trying to do better. Just because I am not familiar with these pronouns does not mean I can't learn, and I do need to learn. This is a story of identity, of discovering being non-binary, of discovering asexuality, and I thought this was really well done. I do not rate memoirs. I don't think it is my place. I have said this so many times, but so this is unrated for me. So my one word, Any Way the Wind Blows, finale, Chipping Arcadia, Poison, and then the third one, I'll pop it up on screen, and when I talk about it, I will go with pretentious. We'll get there. So, Any Way the Wind Blows by Rainbow Rowell is the final book in the Simon Snow trilogy. This is, of course, following Simon Snow and Baz, along with Penny and Agatha and what's his name? No idea. But this does wrap up their final story. They've gone back to England. They have one more like big bad thing. And I gave this a 3.5. This was also for TBR-a-thon. This was for my genre explorer. I spun for a found family prompt, And this is what I chose for Found Family because Simon is literally an orphan, but also like he chooses his family. They're very big themes of like choosing your own path and creating your own connections and self-identity. I finished the series. I think the series is like a 3.25 for me. I just don't think at this stage in my life reading a YA fantasy was like, I'm not the target audience for this anymore. I think it was really well done with certain topics that she tries to address with here. Like Simon has a lot of PTSD and a lot of issues with intimacy and feeling like he's good enough. And I do think younger audiences will resonate with that. As an adult though, I wanted it to go a little bit deeper. Some of the conversations did start to feel a little repetitive and I was over it. And then my last book for TBR-a-thon was Tripping Arcadia by Kit Mayquist. This was also for TBR Explorer. I landed on the square past the manga graphic novel room, and that was to read by an LGBTQ+ author. Kit Mayquist is a bisexual transmasculine author. This is following Lena, who is a med school dropout student. She has to come home. Her family needs her to help out because they are struggling financially. She gets a job working as like a physician's aide to this ultra wealthy family in Manhattan. I think I mess this up like every time. Yep, not Manhattan, Boston. Working for this family in Boston. This goes down a revenge storyline. Lena really despises the patriarch of this family. She thinks he's a shitty dude, realizes that he's kind of culpable for families like hers, and hers specifically, families like theirs, like losing their jobs and their incomes and struggling. And so she sets out on this revenge plot to poison the dude and maybe kill him, but at least like give him a taste of his own medicine essentially. And it just goes from there. I gave this a 3.75. I had a great time with it, and I think this would be a fun read for others. Now, I don't have the physical book of my next one, which was Sister Creatures by Laura Venita Green. I actually had an e-arc of this. I was given an e-arc of this back in December from NetGalley for the audio book, so an ALC, Advanced Listener Copy, and I'm only giving this a 1.5. This is following kind of a mix of cast of characters set in the American South. We've got like Tess, who is young and drunk, and she is a nanny for these kids because their mom is in like a mental facility and the dad is a truck driver. And then we're also following this young college student who is trying to navigate her sexual orientation, and she's kind of got a dalliance with like an older woman, but it's weird. And then we're jumping across time. So we get introduced to these characters, and then there's like this wild child in the woods. And the way it was pitched is that we are following like Tess, this college student dropout nanny, and her interactions with this wild child in the woods, but that's really not what it was. This was more of like a collection of short stories all within the same universe. It felt very disjointed. It was very abrupt in places. To me, the storyline was not cohesive, and I said the word pretentious because it did feel like the author was trying to do too much. It came across as pretentious instead of like literary, and I did not enjoy this book at all. I gave this a 1.5. The next three books are Book Lovers, Rabid, and The Spell Shop. Book Lovers by Emily Henry, yes. Rabid, rabies. And for The Spell Shop, plant. So Book Lovers by Emily Henry is a romance following Nora and Charlie. Nora and Charlie. They are kind of rivals. They both work in book publishing, and they don't get along. Nora is a book agent. Charlie is an editor. Their jobs kind of go head to head a little bit. They can work together, but they also have differences where like she's advocating for the best possible outcome for her clients' books, while he's the one that has to like edit them and potentially be like, hey, this passage needs work. They have this horrible meeting, and then they continue to have to like bump into each other. Nora goes on vacation with her sister to this like small town, and Charlie is there for some reason and they keep bumping into each other and the tension builds. This is a slow burn. It is drawn out and I absolutely adored it. I loved this book so much. I gave it 5 stars. This book, this was in my horror reader tries romantasy, and I love this so much. Next, I have Rabid, a cultural history of the world's most diabolical virus by Bill Wasick and Monica Murphy. They are a married couple. This is a nonfiction book all about rabies, what we know about it, where it came from, epidemiology, so on and so forth. And whilst it was interesting at first, I very quickly lost interest. And so I'm only giving this a 2. This was the Morbidly Curious book club pick for the month of February. And I liked what they were doing in some chapters. They were talking about like where it came from and then how we see it pop up in like pop culture or in other like literature and film and movies. And I really enjoyed that part. But then we would get into some like descriptions of other things. And I definitely tuned out at points. So it was fine, but I was also bored. Next, I have The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. This is the first book in the Spell Shop series. There are going to be 3. Right now there are 2. The 3rd one is supposed to come out this year. And this is a cozy fantasy with some light romantic elements in it, following Kiela. And she is a librarian of the capital, that the capital is going through a rebellion, a revolt, and so she has to flee and she steals library books and heads back to her hometown. And in this universe, magic is forbidden unless you are like a sorcerer or a magician and you are allowed to perform it. So magic is dangerous, and performing magic without express like permission can get you killed, imprisoned. It's very bad. So she has snuck out these magical books and is afraid she's going to get caught and is afraid that she's going to face like charges. But in her hometown though, she realizes that the people in her hometown are struggling because the magic is fading there. And so she decides to start performing magic illicitly and help the town out. Things progress. There's a neighbor who is drawn to her, and so on and so forth. It was very sweet. It was very cozy. There is a little plant guy in here that I am absolutely in love with. He is my favorite Kaz, ride or die. I would do anything for Kaz and his little cactus baby. So there's that. I gave this a 3.5. I thought it was very cute, and I definitely will be continuing in the series because I want more Kaz. The next 3 are One Dark Window, Cards, Blazing Eye Sees All, Cults, The Frozen River, Pregnancy. Let's talk about them even more. One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig is the first in the Shepherd King duology, and this is a gothic romantasy novel. We are set in a world where magic is also kind of forbidden. Magic can only be performed if you have basically these kind of like tarot cards. You tap the cards and you are given a specific power. There's only like 12 different types of powers you can get from the tarot cards, and there's only so many cards. Or there's this sickness, there's this illness that happens, and if you get sick and you survive, a lot of them die, but if you're sick and you survived, more than likely you've become infected with magic. And that, though, the powers can be anything. It's a range of like what can happen if you've been infected. So everyone's power becomes something unheard of or unseen. However, all magic comes with a cost in this world. So even if you're using the cards, if you use the magic for too long, there is a negative consequence. Maybe it causes you great physical pain, or it changes your personality, or you will end up, I don't remember some of the other things, but like there's always a downside. And the people who are sick, who got infected with magic, the downside of that is what they call degeneration, where it basically like eats away at you physically or mentally or both. So like your sickness, your powers will end up killing you. Our main character is Elsbeth, and she was infected. Her thing is that she like absorbs the power of cards, and she did that when she was younger, and so she has a very specific card like living in her head. So she has like this like demon-esque figure in her head. She can ask, it talks to her, she can ask it to help her, yada yada yada. She gets drawn into this plot, this conspiracy to help recover all of the different cards, because legend foretells that if you collect all the cards and you do this like ritual, that the mist will be dispelled surrounding this place and everyone gets cured. So she gets drawn into this conspiracy to do so. There is a romantic subplot, and I gave this a 3. I was a little disappointed, but the ending snagged me, and the ending is why it has a 3, and now I have to finish the duology because I need to know what happens next. This and this was also, these were both, the Spell Shop and the One Dark Window was in my like horror reader tries romance video. Blazing Eyes Sees All, Love is One, False Prophets, and the Fever Dream of the American New Age by Leah Sotile is a nonfiction book following modern New Age spiritualism movements. This was the Morbidly Curious book club pick for January. I didn't get to it in January, so I read it in February. This is such a fascinating read. It very specifically follows one particular movement, Love Has Won, and its enigmatic follower or like leader, Amy Carlson, and it just talks about her life and her history and what she did and how eventually it all like unraveled, and Amy did die unfortunately and very sadly, and like what her death did to her followers. This was such an interesting book. I feel like I did learn a lot. Interspersed throughout, the author also talks about other like New Age spiritualism movements, especially those led by women. The focus on this is really women-led movements, and I gave this a 3. Even though I really enjoyed it, I wanted it to focus more on women's role. It really highlighted in here like how this attracts women and like what it does for women, like why the modern New Age movement appeals to women and how self-proclaimed gurus and prophetesses have created kingdoms for themselves within it. I think it focused more on these women, but not necessarily why so many women get pulled into these situations. And I just wanted a little bit more of that. I wanted her to dive more into that kind of psychology. And then I have The Frozen River by Ariel Lahan. This was actually my family book club pick for the month of February. Rachel, my sister-in-law, she is the one that picked this book for us. This is a historical fiction novel based loosely on a real life person, Martha Ballard. And Martha Ballard was a midwife in the late 1700s in Maine, and this is following her as she is very specifically helping this community. A woman that she was there has been sexually assaulted and is pregnant, but she brought the crime forward, and so we are seeing Martha dealing with the town pregnancies and the good and the bad of that, right? Of like people who were like legitimately pregnant versus someone who unfortunately had pregnancy thrust upon them due to a sexual act that they did not consent to, and what that does to a person. It's like they know who did it. Like that was the worst part, is they know the men who did it, and watching these men like walk around free. Oh, heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking. That being said, I gave this 5 stars. I love this. So sorry family, if you're watching this, we haven't had our book club yet. I love this book. We'll talk about it soon. I loved it. I gave this 5 stars. I thought it was so powerful. It was moving. It was a hard read at times. There were so many just like heart-wrenching passages of like, not just the pregnancy and like the labor, like those scenes, yeah, those were hard to like listen to. Pregnancy and like labor and delivery freak me out. But hearing it in this book was powerful. This was a lot of like her as a woman during this time, like claiming power and knowing like this is my job, this is what I do, and no one can take that from me. I loved that. This is about women and strength and camaraderie and female friendships. There is a scene at the end of this where like revenge, a good for her moment, and good for her. I was listening to this. I listened to his audiobook, which I also recommend. The audiobook is phenomenal. I'm not gonna lie, at the end, like the pivotal scene, the climactic scene happened. I was at my desk at work and I straight up went, yes, like at my desk, no lie, because I was so invested. So yes. And then the last 3 books, and then we'll talk about my DNF. I have An Encore of Roses, which I don't physically have. It was a short story, threesome. We have Almost Surely Dead, which I have as an ebook, Folklore. I have The Mysterious Affair at Styles by Agatha Christie, the first Hercule Poirot novel. We're gonna go with Money as my word. So An Encore of Roses is a short story set in the same universe. It is a direct follow-up to A Dowry of Blood. It is just a short little story It is from Alexi's point of view, and we are following the same 3 characters from A Dowry of Blood, which I read in January. It's like a 24-page short little story, and honestly, it's just a sex scene is really what it is. The 3 main characters, Magdalena, Constanza, and Alexi, all meet up again to support Alexi. They have this cute, like, they go to dinner kind of thing. They have this heartwarming conversation where Alexi's like, I feel like you don't love me anymore. I never see you guys anymore. I'm very sad. I don't know what I'm doing kind of thing. And they reassure him like, no, we love you. We will always love you. It wasn't just a trauma bond, right? Like the 3 of us are always connected, and then they have sex, and that's it. That being said, I gave it a 4.5. I don't know what was up with me the day I read it, but I think I was just also very emotional because I kind of teared up a little bit, because the language they used to reassure him was so beautiful and was so sweet, because he is so vulnerable in this short pages where he's like, I just feel like I'm losing you and like I'm not good enough. And the way they reassure him, I don't know, like I feel like I just like needed to hear that. And it was like, okay. So that was super cute. Almost Surely Dead by Amina Akhtar I read for the 52 Book Club. This is for my author whose first and last name start with the same letter, which was A. This is following Dunya, who is a struggling pharmacist in New York. Weird things start happening. Someone attempts to murder her, and it was really weird, and then it keeps happening. And then she keeps being put in these situations where people are out to get her and she doesn't know what's going on. Now, the weird thing about this novel is that it is told as if it is happening, but we are supposed to understand that this was in the past. So we understand that 2 years ago in the past, someone attempted to murder her and then things kept happening. But now here in the present, Dunya has gone missing. And the present is told in these podcast transcripts. And then we also get another flashback up to like when Dunya was 5 years old, to her childhood. And so we're getting these 3 different timelines. I gave this a 2.75. I go into my reasoning in my 52 Book Club video. That video is coming up. The Mysterious Affairs at Styles by Agatha Christie. This is that first book by the first Hercule Poirot book, and this I gave a 4.5. I have a whole video. It is so convoluted. It is so messy because I was very, very sick while I was filming this, so I apologize in advance. You will only be able to watch that video if you are a member of Magical Stitches, which is the Facebook group that I run, that is a cross stitch and reading group. I am doing a like members only video for every month that the books that we read, of me trying to like solve this. And I'm telling you now, that video is so convoluted. I talk in circles because I was desperately ill whilst trying to read and solve this. I was not firing on all cylinders. So sorry about that when you watch it, but I loved it. We are following this story. It is in England. It is a mystery novel. Our narrator, us, the detective, whatever, Hastings, is convalescing in the English countryside with his longtime friend, John Cavendish. He goes to the Styles house, Styles Court or whatever, and is there when the old lady matriarch of the family, Emily Inglethorpe, is murdered. And it is believed to be that she is poisoned by someone in the house, and they can't figure out who did it, or they all think they know who did it, but they don't know how to prove it. So then Hastings says, let me call my good buddy Poirot. This retired Belgian detective, Poirot, shows up and solves the case. And I had a lot of fun reading it, even though I was very ill. Which brings me to my last book, Big Swiss by Jen Beagin. This is my one and only DNF for the month of February. This was the Read with Pride book club pick for the month of February. The Read with Pride book club is a local book club run by my library, and I did not finish this book. What's my one word for this? Weird. This is a literary fiction following Greta, who is a transcribist for a sex therapist. So she gets the recordings of his therapy sessions with clients and she transcribes it. She becomes utterly obsessed with one particular client, Big Swiss, and is like frothing at the mouth every time she gets a transcript, a recording of their sessions. And then lo and behold, out and about in the wild, she hears Big Swiss's voice and immediately is like, I gotta know her. Starts this like friendship relationship with this woman under false pretenses, like gives her a fake name, all of this stuff. It says that she'll do anything to sustain this relationship. I didn't make it that far. I got 56% of the way through the audiobook and I said, no, I'm done. I basically they started having sex, and it wasn't that the sex like threw me off. It was the fact that like they were so clinical and it was just so weird. I was not invested. I was not involved. I didn't like any of the characters. I don't like Greta. I think she is gross and definitely abusing power and her position because she knows information about this woman and is using it to like get close to this woman and involve herself in this woman's life. I did not like that at all. I don't like Big Swiss as a character. I don't like the woman either. I didn't like Sabine, who is Greta's roommate. I don't like the therapist. Like, I didn't like anyone in this book, and when I can't like anyone, I'm not invested. I don't mind an unlikable main character, but if I don't like anyone in the book to keep me reading and interested, I'm over it. So I DNF this. I understand it was trying to be weird and like literary and like explore that people do fucked up stuff, but this just it was a no for me. So that's my DNF. Now, fun little stats, fun little things, and we'll wrap this up because I've been yammering on for way too long. Here's my fun thing. So I read a total of 15 books, which was 2,189 pages. I also of my physical reads, I listened to 91 hours of audiobooks, which is crazy. My average rating was a 3.5. My favorite book of the month, I think, is Book Lovers. I think Book Lovers is my absolute favorite book. My favorite cover is Tripping Arcadia. I love the look of this cover. It's so cool. And the book I think I'm going to recommend is a toss-up between Tripping Arcadia and The Frozen River. Yeah, this is fun, thriller. I like the poison angle. I think a lot of people could enjoy this. There's kind of a slight mystery element to it. This is a lot heavier, but also I think has a lot of really good messaging. So these are my recommendations for the month of February. Also, I did it at the end of my January wrap-up, so I wanted to do it again here for February. This is your reminder to use your public library. Almost all of the books that I read this month came from the public library. I borrowed, let me get my little stats page out, 12 of the books that I read this month, 12 came from the library. So of the 12 books that I read, if I had gone out and purchased all 12 of these books that came from the library, it would have cost me $302. Because I did not go out and buy those books, I did not spend $302 this month. And that's amazing. So use your public library. It saves you money. And with that, thank you so much for watching. I will see you all in a video very, very soon. I'm still getting used to these wrap-up videos because I don't do them very often, but thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Be easy with your arts.